1 minute, and we will get up and running once the chat starts to gather. They're all going to be popping over from Steph's show. You were on there yesterday, right?
Yeah. Got to talk with her.
It's good.
First new branch of the U.S. Armed Forces in 75 years, Space Force, not since the Air. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. To me, Corona means Italy. Action replays in magnified fortune. Heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your computer board. And they roll out. Our army manned the air. It ran the rampart. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. He meant explosive in terms of fire.
A lot of very bad things are happening in Nicaragua.
And you know, when you say per capita, there's many per capita.
It's just like per capita relative to what?
We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges. They're not allowed to be offensive, unfortunately. And when they get caught, they say, no, this is just soup for my family.
I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. Jack left town.
We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges. When they gaze upon Yosemites.
All right, we're going to get rolling.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. It's normally Friday Rob Glenn can't be with us this morning, but we have a very special guest in the first hour, and I've only got him for a short time, so I'm going to maximize it. Our dear friend Harry Dunn, Officer Harry Dunn, congressional candidate Harry Dunn, perpetual fighter for freedom Harry Dunn, of the great Harry Dunns of the world. He is the greatest, singularly. How are you? Welcome. Good morning.
Oh, man, you are too kind, my friend. Thank you for those kind
I like
words.
to think I'm just kind enough, but I'll work on it. Yeah.
There we go. Thank you, my friend.
So obviously, we're front loaded with a ton of news, and I would love to get your opinion on a bunch of these things. Not the least of which, and pardon me for not knowing. You had military service before you were a police officer, or no? Or
no.
Yeah.
I was a football player before.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Yeah, no, my father was in the Air Force, and my grandfather was in the Army.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah,
I'm from a military family, but myself,
me too. I had uncle in Vietnam. Both my grandfathers were in World War II. And my girlfriend's father was Navy. He passed away. But so like just when we're on the cusp of something, we'll talk about what's going on in Israel and Iran right now, because that is the single biggest dust up in the world right now. But a couple of things. One is I know you ran in a primary. Was that your first run in a primary ever, or was that your second?
Yeah. No, that was my first, and and I came in second in a crowded field of
which is very impressive right out of the gate, man.
I learned a lot from it. It was a hell of an experience. I haven't ruled out doing it again, but my number one reason and the why I'm doing it is the continuation of my public service of being a police officer. And especially in this time, I don't believe, this world, this country, this government needs, your typical politicians. We need people that understand what's at stake, the gravity, the severity of people losing their houses, their jobs, their lives, their health care. And just understand the gravity of that. And I just wanted to be a fighter. And I still am. But we'll just see what the universe has in store.
Sure. Well, again, I think there's always room for more gentlemen such as yourself. And the field is wide open in terms of both in the world of like politics and social movement of good leaders and good support, and I think a mix of the two is kind of what you've shown. I got to say, I'd like to apologize on behalf of the American people for your treatment on January 6th. I have been raging about that since it happened. And I will. There's only one marginal agreement I have with the other side when they say it was not an insurrection. I agree. It was a failed insurrection, and I think that's the important thing. It's the only reason it wasn't an insurrection was because it was run by morons. Thank God in heaven that they were as stupid as they were, because like it was, considering the volume of human beings and the madness of that crowd on that day. Had they had a brain cell to rub between them, we'd be living in a very different country right now, even with Trump running again.
Yeah. No, so I definitely agree. It was a lot of cosplay characters and stuff like that. No offense to cosplayers out there.
Right, but at least they know what they're doing. Right.
Exactly. But I would like to, I got to just slightly push back and say, look, one of the reasons why they failed is because of the brave men and women of the Capitol Police and the Metropolitan Police. And additionally, the other police forces from across the Eastern Seaboard that came to our aid. And those are true patriots, true brave men and women who defended. A lot of people on that day, officers, lost a lot, including Brian Signick, who lost his life the day after, and several other officers who died via suicide as a result of what happened on that day. So a lot of people lost a lot. And like you said, we could be looking at a totally different country right now had they succeeded. But and it's crazy. I had to go back and try to school some people about the definition of an insurrection, because they try to say it wasn't. I think it's literally a violent uprising against the government or authority. So, so definition-wise,
it was specific
about definitions.
It was geolocated to the actual environment where you actually would carry out an insurrection. I mean, the only thing that would make it more of an insurrection is if it was aimed at the White House, but it was led from there, so that was off the table. And obviously, we're in a very different world right now. I feel like the name of this show is the "I Told You" show. Lately, what was your response when he came back around and the vote went the way it did? I mean, I'm sure you had the same reaction a lot of us had.
Yeah, no, it was heartbreaking for me, man. Because like I said, I ran for Congress, and like I said, I lost. And to be very honest, it hurt me more the night when Kamala lost than when I lost mine. It hurt me more because it said more about us as a country, and it showed where we are and what we prioritize in this country. And it isn't decency. It isn't caring about other people. It isn't, strengthening immigration. And a country, America is a land of immigrants. It isn't. We don't prioritize that. And the reason why I can say that is because we elected somebody who wants to do the exact opposite of treat people with dignity, respect, and just make everything all about him, which that's all he does. So it hurt my heart. And I took some time off. I was a surrogate for Kamala, and I went all around the country trying to elect Democrats up and down the ballot, because, as the great philosopher Kendrick Lamar says, they're not like us. And the way that they act, these Republicans out there, they don't care about anybody but themselves and appeasing their leader. But the resolve that I have now is to continue to stand up and keep fighting and going forward, because we don't get anywhere by just being angry and doing nothing. So turning that into action and continuing to fight, and with the eyes on the prize, is the 2026 midterms for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, I've said the singular focus for the DNC has to be turn red districts purple and purple districts blue. There is no other mission. Any of the backbiting or infighting between anybody who votes 80% with us versus 95% with us is immaterial to the threat that exists in the world.
And you have. I like what you just said. Say that again. Turn purple.
Red districts purple and purple districts blue. That is the only job, because because we're not
I'm
going
gonna steal
to
that from you, by the way.
please pass it around. There's no one can steal an idea here. They're all free. That's thanks to the patrons and all of our other stuff. That's the point. That's why I don't put anything behind a paywall, because I feel like we're here to come up with these ideas and then, let them out into the world and have them, have a life of their own.
Yeah,
but the clarity about this, like, I think that, the midterms, these will singularly be the most meaningful midterms in the world. And that, we cannot rest on the idea that, well, they usually shift to the other party. They're going to have to, in a major way, that there's going to have to be a rebuttal on a massive scale. And anybody who half-assed their vote or phoned it in or didn't vote or any of these things, I am vote shaming the hell out of them right now, because we've got to get them motivated. And I think shame can be a good motivator if you have any self-worth, any decency left. I've often said, those people who go like, never regret anything because it made you who you are. Like, nope, some things that made me who I am is the regret I had. I'm not going to do that shit again, right? Is that, you know what I mean? We all learn from stuff we've done and allow that ignominy to carry us forward and go, yeah, that was below me. That was not me at my best. And I feel like that should be the message of the upcoming midterms is, everybody who was, who thought this was a coin flip, for God's sake, between Kamala and Trump, that madness, that fever has had to have broken.
Yeah. Listen, I get it. I get wanting to shame, and I told you so, and I get it. And maybe in private conversations, I do say that with friends or,
sure.
But I don't know if, I'm torn on this because I see people on social media and comment sections all over shaming people. Y'all did this. This is what you all wanted, or not voting got you this. Look, I get it. Like, I don't believe. I think it's I do believe, but I think it's a delicate balance in shaming and encouraging people to. Because you shame people enough, they're like, all right, the hell with all of y'all. I'm going back to my turtle shell, and I'm not participating, which we don't want.
No,
I
agree.
A delicate balance of acknowledging, hey, do you see how what you did or what you didn't do led to where we are now? My vote didn't matter. Okay, what if 9 million people said that? Or Kamala lost the election by 1.5 million votes, or whatever the number, 1.5 points. I don't know the exact number, 1.5 points. So a lot of people having that mindset is kind of where we are now.
Here's what I would say is that the only people that, if anybody who would be, is the kind of person who would be shamed and they would go, I'm taking my ball and going home, their commitment level wasn't there in the first place. Anybody who does at least allege to have empathy, allege to care about the issues we're talking about, and have sold that to their friends around them and everybody, I think that shame can land. And I do think it can be motivating instead of coddling this right. And I would also say that, I've talked about this on the show. I don't. You ever watch the show Mindhunter? Did you ever see the show? It was about
I'm familiar with it. No, but I'm familiar with it.
There's one thing where one of the FBI guys was interviewing Edmund Kemper, and they say, we think there are these kind of serial killers and these kind of serial killers, organized and disorganized, and he's breaking down. He goes, what do you think? And he goes, and he's a serial killer and he's caught. He goes, I think all of your insights about serial killers have come from the ones you've been able to catch. You have no idea how to catch the ones you haven't caught yet. You can't categorize them. You don't know what they do because you can only categorize the ones you get. And I think the same thing is true of online. If you're worried about people, how they talk online, people who talk politically online are a subset of people who are online, and people who talk fiercely about it are a subset of that. And so the backbiting that goes on there is not indicative of how the rest of the world believes. And I think the empathy still exists in the mass populace, and you can appeal to that. And I think the average person can go, damn, I should have fucking voted. I think you can get there with them in a way that you might not with the slacktivists and the people who yell online, but the people who are just over their shoulder, standing a couple feet back, those people will hear it and go, you know what, that was my mistake. And we saw that with Bush, right? Did we see that with like all the Obama Bush voters, the people who came over to Obama because they were like, what was I thinking? If we'd have gone with Gore, we wouldn't have been in Iraq. So that I'm fairly pushy about this thing. This is one of the I got my thumb on that radial nerve, and I'm just pushing it like crazy because I feel like nobody else is. And there's got to be at least one of us out there. So the key, though, I think for you, I would love to hear from you. in terms of your experience as a police officer and your experience as running a campaign, the transition to that, I'm curious about like the first steps. What was it like running for office the first time? Like just going, I'm going to do this. I mean, did you just make a phone call to an elected rep and go, hey, how does this work? What was the first step you took?
Fortunately, I've had the opportunity. I worked on Capitol Hill for 16 years before I left.
Sure.
So I am literally in the epicenter of politics and campaigning. So all you have to do is pay a half-assed amount of attention to that's around you, and then you finally got a pulse on it. But no, I've made a lot of friends over my years at the Capitol, and obviously even more after, going public on January 6th. But I had the opportunity to reach out to some very knowledgeable people who knew what the hell they were doing and how to run campaigns. It just took a little advice from them. Well, multiple people. Not, I sought out a lot of different opinions, and then I surrounded myself with what I believed that was the best team out there. And I'm very proud of what we did. But listen, the thing when you said that the transition and the pivot, it wasn't hard. Like, sure, there's a lot of things that I didn't know about. Like, okay, how do I set up fundraising and what do I do about getting? Sure, you hire people that know how to do that. But at your core, at the core, my campaign was all about public service and continuing to serve and to fight for people that need it. And my goal was to be a voice for the people of the district in the halls of Congress, because that's what your job is as a member of Congress, to represent the people that send you there to represent them and fight for them. So I believe that was easy, the mindset at least, because I dedicated majority of my adult life to public service in the form of a police officer.
Right. And so it just becomes just being a team leader in that regard then, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But that's the thing. You have to surround yourself with people. And I'm not talking like yes men. Like nobody wants a yes man or woman, yes woman.
Sure. Yes. I agree. Yes, totally. I agree with you. Yes, I agree.
You don't want that. You want somebody that could tell you, hey, nah, that's stupid, bro. Or no, think about this. Or what about this? Or what about that? Like, so you have to, have people that will pull the curtain back and be honest with you, while understanding what your mission, what your goal is, and help you reach it effectively and efficiently.
Great. And by the way, I want to remind everybody, if I can, let me just open this up over here. Where is it? That Harry Dunn is my guest this morning, and he is the author of the New York Times bestseller, Standing My Ground. There's a new version out with a new afterword. Capitol police officers fight for accountability in good trouble after January 6th. And again, I feel like in so many ways, a lot of us, it's one of the things that makes us grind our teeth about the circumstance that you find yourself in and that other officers found themselves in, and the irony, the brutal, ridiculous irony of the conversation we're hearing about downtown LA. With all due respect, I was there yesterday on my way out of town. I went in for an event and I drove back, and I drove through past downtown towards the 10 just to see if there was any shenanigans going on. Zero, obviously. And a lot of, National Guard guys, bless their hearts, standing around under orders, wearing gas masks and stuff like that, just holding point for hours on end, getting relieved in cycles when there is absolutely no reason for them to be there. There's 2 days of this stirred up violence. There will be that stuff. It will cascade across cities, as we've seen before. And then the real protests are peaceful and want nothing to do with the rioting that occurred in any of these situations. There's a distinct line. But the conversation about LA versus the conversation about, they're willing to call this an insurrection, and it's a 1-block area around a federal building that they haven't even breached. Meanwhile, they're freaking out about the Mexican flag being flown over a Waymo on fire, but they bring a Confederate flag into the Capitol, and that's just people having a good time.
Or they beat police officers with the American flag.
Right.
So, it's projection. And listen, we can't get bogged down into that. And also, they want to use the word. Let's go back to the definition: a violent uprising against the government Well, wait, we'll stop there because
Mm-hmm.
the violence was shown by a lot of the law enforcement, the responders there who were grabbing and
Mm-hmm.
like people who were voluntarily submitting themselves for arrest. They were
Mm-hmm.
getting clubbed. There's a video of an officer
Yeah.
on horseback clubbing a man that is already down. We see the Australian journalist that was shot by rubber bullets, literally holding a microphone, talking into a camera. There's firing in it. So the violence is being caused by, in this case, the government. Donald Trump did more incitement than he did to quell what was going on,
Right.
which was really nothing.
The point,
Um,
though.
the governor said we don't need the National Guard. The chief of police, I believe, in a statement put out, hey, they thanked the citizens of LA for
Right.
so it
Well,
was
there.
projection.
Yeah, yesterday. So late yesterday, there. I saw some of the first interviewers of the people who were leading the people who were chanting peaceful protest over and over again because
Yeah,
they were making a point to separate themselves from the people that did violence. And they had, over the last 2 days, they themselves had developed a strategy to excise the people who would cause any trouble from their group by literally, either not allowing them to walk with them and pointing them out to law enforcement, going, that person's throwing stuff, we are not. And therefore not allowing, a masked individual who very well may not even be there for the actual cause. They may just be an anarchist wannabe chucking stuff around, or they may be an agent provocateur. We know that, and I've mentioned this before, but we know that Paul Manafort was hired by Donald Trump or worked for him for free. And Manafort's
yeah,
idea during Euromaidan in Ukraine was to put snipers in towers, put provocateurs in the audience, in the crowd, and cause the trouble that gave them the permission effectively to fire into the crowd. And that's who he had working for him on his first campaign for free, a guy who was trying to make himself right with Russia. So the idea that we shouldn't be concerned about those kinds of shenanigans, whether they come from the White House or the Proud Boys or some right-wing lunatic that just wants to stir stuff up, it's something we can't take for granted. And I think there's I'm very excited. Are you attending any of the No Kings marches tomorrow? Is there,
yeah.
is that, yeah.
So I got like invites to go to several of them because there are
I
a
have
lot
no
going
doubt.
around in
Right.
Maryland, the Virginia area. But I'll pop in at a couple of them
Yeah.
just to show solidarity. I don't anticipate speaking at any. I'm gonna
Hmm.
find me a sign or a shirt to wear and
Yeah.
just go out there in solidarity.
Same
But
thing. Right. Yeah, me too.
just because it's important. And also, I'll be talking with some other journalists that are going to be talking about it, the resistance to Donald Trump and not giving his parade any coverage, which I don't
Right.
think many of the people in the media should do. Um,
Agreed.
yeah, I think the coverage of this of him should be very, very limited. Happy birthday to the 250th anniversary. Happy birthday to them. But it's unfortunate it's going to be overshadowed by a
Right.
wannabe dictator who needs his ego stroked.
Yeah. Well, I think that's always he's going to co-opt every holiday and make it about him. No question. Right. That is just a reality.
Yeah.
So what we've got to do is make sure that we don't allow him to do it by not participating. We don't have to. So I would go, there are other ways. If you want to honor the Army or somebody in your family or
Yeah.
whatever, I think there are a myriad of ways of doing it along the lines of Memorial Day or Veterans Day that you can, the idea that you have to turn the Flag Day into some sort of apology to, because Trump has co-opted this it's sad that that's what it comes to. But the reality is that they serve under the commander in chief, and it is our responsibility. It is our responsibility to not let somebody like him happen again in the White House. And the fact that he got in there is because a bunch of voters didn't show up or slow voted. And again, there are all kinds of lawsuits about, voter shenanigans that may not have happened.
Yeah.
That's sort of out of our control. I'm not going to rest my, my passions on whether or not that goes. I'm going to keep fighting for the idea that it should be overwhelming, that our ideas, what we care about in the Democratic Party matter. And we need to get as many Democrats elected so that even if, a Trump or his ilk squeaks by with the help of someone like Elon Musk again, we've got a House and a Senate that acts as a a bulwark against what they're
Guardrails.
attempting. Yes.
The guardrails, and that's why it's important to elect leaders that will stand up and protect those guardrails. Because everybody can talk about these institutions and they're supposed to hold and the checks and balances, co-equal branches of government, executive, legislative, judicial. Um, but those mean doodly squat if we have people in there that don't care about the fibers that are what they're made up of and with the reason why they're co-equal and
Right.
not just one has more power than the other.
Yeah, we've run. Bill Barr famously is one of the guys who believes in this permanent administrative state. The president being the most important elected figure in the country, so he should basically dictate how the government works and undermine the House and the Senate and the SCOTUS, to the point where that was his goal during the first Bush administration, and of course during Reagan. These guys are, that never went away. The Heritage Foundation, all these groups, they have a long game. And you can look at Project 2025 as a political aberration, maybe, but this is something that they've been plotting for a long time, just like, the Project for New American Century stuff. This is just draft 5 of that. It's got a new, label on it, but they keep chugging. And I feel like that is the one area where we can borrow from their playbook. I'm not going to debase myself by going, well, we just have to be xenophobic. That's just the nature of things. Or whatever. You know what I mean? But I do think we've got to get our voters on a path to shoring up. Going, okay, I'm gonna every 2 years we have an election. I'm there. Anybody who's running for sheriff or judge in my country, I'm going to pay actual attention to it. Give yourself the next decade to remedy this stuff. Otherwise, we're just ping ponging back and forth between sensible and insane.
And that's exactly what they want us to do. So It's important to make a plan now before 2026. Pay attention, be educated, and don't formulate your plan a week before election day. Pay attention to what's going on now. And then get out there and not only just vote, but be helpful. You can help spread the message. Everybody has a circle of friends or colleagues where people are able to talk with friends and loved ones or whatever. Because it's going to take a group effort. This is the biggest group project in the history of school, and everybody needs to participate. You can't just have one of them people that shows up and gets the same grade that everybody else gets. No, everybody got to participate in us for us to be successful in this.
Agreed. And by the way, I know I only got for another minute or so, and I appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you on again sometime soon. Anytime you need a place to make a statement, put out something, I'm happy to be here for you. Also, I want to remind everybody, you've got a Substack. Let's see if I'll switch over to this guy. There we go. Called Standing Our Ground. It's harrydunn.substack.com. So if people want to join that, if you're on part of the Substack revolution, there seems to be going on right now, especially across our media sphere.
Well, that's what goes with, I called it Standing Our Ground. My book was called Standing My Ground, but it's going to take all of us, which is why I named it Standing Our Ground, because I believe in a community of people that it's going to take a coalition, if you will, people that are willing and able to stand up, and just know that there's a whole community of people out there that are going to stand with each other in the pursuit of justice and what's right.
Absolutely. We appreciate your service. Everybody in the chat room is shouting your praises, and I greatly appreciate being on here with us today. harrydunn.substack.com, and of course, Standing Your Ground is the book. Please pick it up. And are you got another book in you?
You know what? I wrote a children's book about January 6th, and we're working on, how to distribute that and roll that out even more. But a children's book, I think, is very important, especially nowadays when they're talking about first of all, that it didn't happen. These future generations, our children, our grandchildren, great, need to understand what happened in January 6th, and not just on January 6th, but everything afterwards, and how they are attempting to rewrite what happened. Not even rewrite, just erase.
Right.
Erase, which they are trying to do. So I think it's important that we never let them forget what these people, what they want to do. And also that goes, I'll talk about it real quick. and that includes something as simple as putting up a January 6th plaque that
Yes.
Congress passed a law. So yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Hodges, and myself, Officer Danny Hodges, from the guy, as he refers to himself, the average-looking guy that was squished in between the doors, screaming by
Yeah.
rioters and insurrectionists. We filed a lawsuit against Congress, or excuse me, the architect of the Capitol, because the language of the law says on this day, a year, no later than 1 year from this date, the Congress shall direct the architect of the Capitol to install a plaque honoring the officers for their service, or whatever the exact language of it was.
Mm.
It has been 3 years since the law was passed. It has been 2 years since the law was supposed to be enacted. We asked them. We tried political pressure. Hell, we said pretty please. I had
Mm-hmm.
said pretty please with a cherry on top, and they
Mm-hmm.
didn't. So you know what? See you in court. And it's unfortunate that we have to go to court to compel Congress to follow their own law. Look, this is simple. It's one of two things. You follow the law and install the plaque, or you repeal the law. You are Congress. You have the ability to repeal the law.
Right.
So you know what? If you don't want to hang it, then repeal the law, and let's see
Mm-hmm.
how that goes.
Yeah.
But in the
I,
meantime, follow the damn law.
Yeah, agreed. I appreciate you, and I know that Democrats in the House are putting up like replica plaques around their
Yeah.
offices in protest, which I think is great. And I keep up the good fight. I feel like they're going to put it in because Taco, Trump always chickens out, and he surrounds himself with other people who are just like him. So,
Yep.
thank you so much, Officer Harry
Thank you, my
Dunn.
friend.
New York Times best-selling author. You gotta brag about yourself, man. You gotta throw that
I,
around.
I struggle with that, man. I struggle with it, but the big thing is I couldn't have done it without the people. Anybody can write a book, but it has to take the people to actually want to hear what you have to
Hmm.
say and want to support. So I'm thankful for all of the support
I
that
agree, but
people have
don't.
given me, and I am nothing without you all. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but you're absolutely allowed to because we're proud of the work that you did. So
Thank
honor
you.
our appreciation of you by being okay with what you've accomplished and what you
I
stood for. It
receive
means
it.
a lot.
I receive
Yeah,
it. Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you so much, brother. We'll see you
You got it,
again.
my friend. Take
All
care.
right.
Yep. Bye bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. The Harry Dunn. Hold on, I'll switch back over there, and I should open up the chat room. Hi guys, welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for Andrea for setting that up. It was really amazing. Again, Harry Dunn's got his Substack, harrydunn.substack.com, and then of course he was on Allison. I'm confused. It was that Clean Up on Aisle 45 with Allison Gill and Harry Dunn is their mutual podcast, or he was on as a guest with her. Either way, yeah, very cool. Now, obviously. Whoops, what the heck? Get out of here, you crazy thing. I'm going to reopen this. Obviously, Safari quit. Okay, that's good. I wanted to show you guys something. We'll get to this in just a moment. Let me go to the, I'm still in studio mode because I'm a dummy. I'm very tired. So for everybody saying like, Hal looks like you got some sleep. I did not. And everybody's like, did you hurt your arm? No, that's a vitamin B patch because I have not slept. So I'm like trying to take care of myself naturally. Now, I do have an enormous coffee, but I haven't drank any of it yet because I didn't have time because I was setting up the show and I only slept 3.5 hours. That's my first sip of coffee this morning, and it ain't much. Watch me like drink it all after the show and not be able to take a nap. So much going on. Obviously, we'll start with what's going on in Israel and Iran. Let me bring up the chat room. Beg your pardon, so I can see you guys. Hello, everyone. It's day 2 of this stuff. It is going to continue over the next little bit. Trump is catching shit. I'll put some of this. I'm going to arrange some of these things because I was so prepping for Harry Dunn to be on. But there's a ton of stuff. The irony is, let's see this, and we'll put this on show the reader. Thank you. And it's all very peculiar. Let's see. So it's some of this is like so serious and so important and full of such a it's historical. These are historical things that are occurring, and then Trump is such a wagging dumbass during all this stuff that it's hilariously embarrassing to just even So I think one of the big stands. So overnight, just so you know, it all started yesterday late evening. I was on the air. If you didn't see that, you can go back and watch yesterday's show. I was in LA when the attack started happening. And initially there were just reports of explosions inside Tehran, 6 or so sites that were where there was smoke and there were explosions heard. Then it turns out there were explosions heard all over the country that way, and that into the night there were more attacks. The next morning, Iran says, and again, so much of this is like unverifiable in the moment, and you shouldn't be in a rush to verify it in these situations, anyways, unless you're in charge of. And here, I'll show you this one second.
This is
hold on. There's no need to rush to the details. The details you want are the real ones. And in the middle, there's going to be a lot of people throwing around conjecture and mixing in things. And you want to be as informed as you can be about these things. But there's so many elements of these things. And I've shown you multiple times how a story can get ahead of the read on the news. For example, let's see. This... Yeah, here you go. Remember this story? I gotta open this up and hold on. Ding. Remember this story? Twitch streamer Hassan Piker says he was questioned by U.S. Customs at airport for his political beliefs, that his political beliefs triggered the inspection, and he's like, they knew who I was and they were ready to receive me. Let's just say it wasn't a very warm welcome, he told his viewers on there. Okay, you know what happened? It turns out he had signed up for global entry. They had denied his request for global entry because he talks to Houthi terrorists who have Chinese people kidnapped and are holding them hostage. And that tends to be a mark against you getting those things. And they had denied it. And then he flew out of the country, flew back into the country, and apparently stood in line in the global entry thing and had been denied. So he tried to, they're like, hey, what are you doing? Trying to use global entry to get in. You don't qualify. And so they questioned him for 15 minutes and sent him home. Was it an attack on the free speech of the deep state coming for everybody and the right-wing spin machine and the Trump and blah, blah, blah? No, it wasn't. He's a dumbass. And the story got ahead of it. And there are people, by the way, who are being denied their rights. There are students, protesters, and universities all over the country that are being attacked for their free speech rights by the Trump administration. You don't need to eat up any of the bandwidth around this story with your own ego bullshit. That's my problem with it. This isn't a denial that Trump wouldn't love to do things like these, but when you make it all about your fucking self, you take attention away from the places where it's actually fucking happening, like Harvard and Columbia. This ate up a news cycle that it need not, and never mind that there are myriad other stories that we could be talking about besides this horse shit. It was a hoax. It was fake news, and he fell right into it. Jesus. Fucking stupid. Anyways, okay, so next up, Trump's being stupid, as per usual. Israel's attack could help me make a deal with Iran. Okay. State of play, White House envoy, they don't even know if they're going to have a fucking meeting on Sunday. I doubt it. He goes, asked whether Israel's strike jeopardizes nuclear diplomacy. I don't think so. Maybe the opposite. Maybe now they will negotiate seriously. I gave Iran 60 days. Today is 61. They should have made a deal. So this is, by the way, I would argue is proof that he knew this was coming and that he was okay with it. And, I mean, that was his red line. Israel, I guess, took him at his word. He argued that after Israel's crippling strikes, Iran now has a stronger incentive to cut a deal. I couldn't get them to a deal in 60 days. They were close. They should have done it. Maybe now it will happen. Trump said it had been a big day yesterday and noted that Israel used great American equipment during the attack. What an asshole. Like, literally, the State Department and the military are all saying we didn't participate in it and blah, blah, blah. But he's like, fucking always got to be closing. It's the dinner theater, Glenn Ross. He spoke with Netanyahu on Friday, first time since the attack. It's this morning, actually. Trump declined to provide details because Netanyahu wouldn't stop laughing at him. Netanyahu said on Friday that he and his top advisor, Ron Dermer, had numerous phone calls and meetings with Trump and his team ahead of the strike in an effort to get at least tacit approval. I leave the U.S. position to the U.S., Netanyahu said. I told the president that surprise is the essence of success. What are they going to do now? I leave it to President Trump. He made clear that Iran must not have a nuclear weapon. Right. And again, this was, I gotta say, like, do I have evidence that it was coordinated? No, but it absolutely reeks of it. But I mean, this is just old-fashioned plausible deniability. This is Kissinger-level bullshit. Since last night, Israeli officials have been spreading the word that Trump was completely on board and only publicly opposed the attack as a smokescreen to increase the odds of success. I guarantee that's true. I would say absolutely. What do you think? He's going to be against it? You think he's going to be on the side of, if the attack is going to happen and he can't stop it, of course he's going to be for it because it's going to happen. So he has to say everything happened with his approval. If it fails, he could go, I had a better plan, just like getting out of Afghanistan, which he never fucking did. He can crap all over Biden's exit of Afghanistan, but Trump ran on getting us out of Afghanistan and never did. So, a senior White House official denied that in a call with Axios earlier on Friday, stressing that Trump did not want Israel to attack Iran while the nuclear talks were still intact. We told this to the Israelis publicly and privately ahead of the strike. The White House said. The official added that at that moment the U.S. is not planning to attack Iran or join the Israeli operation. Also, for the record, a senior White House official is saying this because that is the line from the White House. It's not the line from Trump. For all the stuff that Biden was, a gaffe machine and would get out ahead of his skis and tell the real story when everybody else was crafting a narrative, Trump is doing exactly that. He can't be behind anybody else. He can't not be the one who knows more than everybody else. He can't not be the decider in the situation, even if he isn't. So the White House will go, we didn't know about this. And no, they didn't clear it with us. And Trump will go, of course they had to clear it with me because I'm the greatest thing that ever happened, right? His ego won't let him. In order to fully decimate the Iran nuclear program, Israel needs to destroy any underground nuclear facilities. They lack the huge bunker busters needed to destroy this facility. Therefore, Israeli officials say they hope the U.S. might join the operation to take out Fordow, which is one of the nuclear underground facilities. Now, there are other ways they could do it. Can they take out the facility? No, maybe not. Can they take out all access to the facility? Can they make the terrain and the roads impassable and destroy all the anti-aircraft batteries around there so they could just like knock out the roads leading to the place if it's in the middle of nowhere, right? Because that's the other thing you do. Yes, can you destroy the actual place? Maybe. But if you can't, you can seal all the doors by exploding them so that the people that are inside have to be dug out once they run out of provisions. Then what? And if the Iranians don't have an actionable weapon or the ability to actually make one, deliver it, then those people are just trapped in there until somebody digs them out like fucking the original Westworld movie. The other thing is, and this is how you know that Iran is a paper tiger. Probably more akin, there's a reason they align with Russia. It's because they talk a big game, but they fight all their fights through proxies. So they're not they may have depleted their internal military stuff in an attempt to just go, we're going to focus on drones entirely, and Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis will do our work for us, and that on the cheap. We'll outsource it. So they outsourced their military stuff. Yeah. So they killed 6 of their top scientists. Some of them that had been in the program, a couple of them that were working in the program. I would argue that if some of the other ones are dead, unless Israel has confirmation, Iran's not going to cop to it. They're going to let people. There's no reason. It's like that was the problem with weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. On the one hand, they didn't have them. On the other hand, if Saddam Hussein came out and said, I don't have any weapons of mass destruction, then Iran could act on his country and take it over, was the thing. So in the ratchet up to that, it was more about him posturing in the world. He couldn't go, I don't actually have these things. You had to pretend you did, because otherwise your enemies would know you were weak. Iran's kind of in a similar situation. So Israel launched airstrikes on Iran's nuclear ballistic, blah, blah, blah. We know this. Wider war, blah, blah, blah. Main story update. Israel launched on Friday morning, targeting nuclear facilities, killing top military commanders in a major escalation against its chief adversary, and the risk of sparking a broader war in the Middle East. Can I just say this? Like, we're hearing this language all over the place. Right here. This risks sparking a broader war in the Middle East. This war has been going on in fits and starts for ages. So the idea that it wasn't that somebody was going to be able to genuinely ratchet it down at this point seems naive at best. So the broader war means that they think Iran's going to strike American interests in these other countries, but they are still in those other countries, some of which they have friendly forces in, some that are adversaries waiting for their chance to join in a fight against Iran. So there's more to this equation than just this kind of 2 + 2 = 4 business that they're throwing around. Great American equipment, right? Maybe they'll negotiate seriously. Yeah, maybe not. The attacks on Iran come as G7 leaders get set to head to a resort in the Canadian Rockies for their first meeting. Israel strikes threaten to crowd out their well-laid plans. Okay, we're going to be watching Donald Trump at the G7, blah, blah, blah. Okay, some further word about the U.S. date. Trump says not sure U.S.-Iran meeting will take place. Okay, yeah, that's that. Duh. This is 22 minutes ago. U.S.-Iran meeting in Oman Sunday, still planned, but not sure it will take place. Reuters cites phone interview with President Trump. So they talked to him directly. Israel's ambassador to the United States, Dunn, spoke to Bloomberg about strikes on nuclear sites. He says attacks will continue. Now, I don't normally do videos in the morning, kids. You know this. I normally save the video stuff for the afternoon. But this is in the realm of... This is in the realm of breaking news. Yesterday, or day before, I forget at this point, there was a video of Glenn Beck and one of his dipshit cohorts panicking about, is like, when this guy, yeah, here it is. Here, I'll show you the beginning of this one, and if you just to refresh your memory, and then I want to show you the follow-up because you'll see why. By the way, hit the like, share the show. I haven't said that this morning. And Venmo's a great way to support the show. And also, I'll put in a YouTube super chat goal in a minute. I get behind because I'm so focused on doing the show. All right. Anyways, so this was day before yesterday. Whatever.
Any idea what it's like? I mean, Jason is up this week, and he's staying up at the ranch. And do you have any idea what it's like to have me and Jason in the same house for a week? It's not a happy place.
No. Many visions of global apocalypse have been discussed. Yeah.
I was working yesterday on what's happening with Hamas and Hezbollah. I just had finished the show. What is happening on the streets of Los Angeles and everything else. And I'm sitting there. I'm a little exhausted. And he comes up. Have you heard the news? I'm like, no, what? I think Israel's going to bomb the snot out of Iran. Could be tonight. Could be tonight. You know what that means? No, I don't think it means total collapse. It's going to be ugly. Dogs and cats are going to be tearing each other's eyes out. And
That's the guy he's talking about. He's the head writer for The Blaze, and he's staying at, this is Glenn Beck's ranch, his house, and they're doing the show from there. And both of them are preppers.
And, and it's a very good possibility. Kamala comes back and she's the president of the United States. It's going to be that bad, Glenn. I'm like, okay, thank you. And I'm not going to sleep.
Sounds like a fun time. Sounds like this is why you moved into the mountains, though, right? I mean, it is. If you're in the mountains,
to get away from Jason,
right?
Well, okay. So, Jason, let's take me through this, because yesterday the
Now, by the way, I don't have to go through this whole thing. Jason comes up with that bullshit that this is probably, they're pulling all these people out of the Middle East just as Trump's using this as a bargaining chip to scare the Iranians into talking. Not because they're actually moving on actionable intelligence, and they got word that this was going to happen, and they couldn't do anything to stop it because Trump is a giant gaping asshole. So, meanwhile, flash forward to this morning.
Let me just say this, because I have quite a monologue. I spent about 3 hours on about 1 o'clock in the morning. I started it. And I will tell you, maybe some anger therapy might have been better. But I took it all out on a monologue, and I'm going to unleash that onto all of the...
Ooh, he's going to monologue us. Oh, dear.
Onto some people that I actually still refer to as friends. I just don't know what the hell people are thinking. But
oh, by the way, he thinks he didn't get his insider heads up so he could get his talking points in order.
Let's start with why this war is not Iraq, and yet why it terrifies me. First of all, I hate war. I used to be, in my youth, a little more war happy, because I wasn't going to fight it. And, we should do that. And we should go and we got to police the war. No, we don't have to do any of that. We shouldn't do any of that. And I have learned from, my first 30, 40 years of my life that what I was for was absolutely wrong.
What do you think is good? Like 10 years from now, what do you think old fart Glenn Beck is going to think of these couple of decades?
The State Department was wrong. The neocons were wrong. All of them wrong.
Republicans, not the State Department. Fuck you. Not neocons. Fuck you. The Republicans you pushed and voted for. George W. Bush. If you think Al Gore would have taken us into Iraq, you're an asshole.
For one, it's not only wrong for America, but it is also, I've seen too many people come home broken or not come home at all. And those who do come home, nobody seems to care about them. And I just think...
Fuck off.
Is absolutely abhorrent the way we treat our...
Nobody seems to care about them. I mean, you're just telling on yourself. What you mean is it only occurs to you to care about them when it's convenient or when it helps your party slam the other party.
And I've watched our country send generation after generation off to foreign battles with no clear ending, many times no clear enemy. Tell me who our enemy was besides Osama bin Laden for 20 years.
Well, I would argue probably the Taliban primarily, and then ISIS became the enemy over time because ISIS was trying to form a caliphate, which is a different kind of state over top of Iraq and Syria and parts of Lebanon, and so they were kind of an invasion. They were, to use the parlance of our times, a colonizing force of the Muslim, Coptic Christian, and I guess Turkish and Syrian and Iraqi population of that area, that they would turn it into an Islamic state, specifically in that area, basically carving out of multiple countries that piece of it. And then, of course, the Taliban was the force that was trying to work its way back into power so that they could, subjugate women again and all that kind of stuff, even though Afghanistan's not actually a real country. It's 12 tribal regions sewn together in inside a border that is not where it begins, but where other countries stop, because no one needs to go any further because there's nothing over that hill.
Who is our enemy? Well, it's the ideology of... What is that ideology? You can't even say it.
By the way, he's about to say the ideology. He's literally going to tell you the Iranian ideology and why this has to happen, which is, death to Israel, death to America, that they have access to weapons, all that. I mean, he's going to reverse fucking course. You just know it.
And then we were told that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, by the Bush administration, motherfucker. I didn't buy it. Nobody on my side bought it. We were marching in the streets, and you guys were calling us assholes, just like you're talking. You're talking about the people who marched against the Iraq war the same way you're talking about people in the streets about the immigration raids. You were on the wrong side of it, asshole. You owe us all an apology. Here you go. You owe Al Gore a fucking apology. How do you like that, asshole? You owe me an apology. And everybody who went out on the streets because we knew the Iraq war was a fucking distraction and a boondoggle. It's absurd. You're mad because you got suckered, and now you bought Trump's line of bullshit about being the peace president and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, he's talking about Trump Plaza Gaza, and you're like, he's just fucking around.
We were told we can't afford to wait, and so we went. And in the end, whether you believe the cause or not, it became another drawn-out conflict, another wound in our national...
By the way, thank you, Joe Biden, for getting us out of Afghanistan, where Donald Trump could not.
And far too many American families were touched.
Sorry, would not. I'm sure he could have. The levers of power were available to him to remove us from Afghanistan. He chose not to because he's a big gaping anus.
By it. And once again, the world is holding its breath. Israel yesterday struck Iran hard, precisely, and quietly.
Hard, precisely, and quietly. That's the name of my next erotic novel. I don't know why he thinks those are the words to hit.
And before the screaming starts from the headlines, the chamber...
Before the screaming starts is the follow-up. It's the second book in the series. I'm sorry. I take these issues very seriously, so I refuse to take this dickhead seriously.
Of the UN, the cable news panels... Let's stop and ask ourselves a few hard questions, shall we?
Yes. Could I be as dumb as Glenn Beck? Could I be the dumbest Glenn Beck that's ever fucking Glenn Becked in the history of Glenn Becks? Could Stu sit next to someone so dumb unless he was as fucking dumb as I am? All yeses. All big, hard, precise, silent, quiet yeses.
First of all, is this America's war? The answer is no.
You do realize that Donald Trump set a 60-day limit where Iran had to come to the table. If they haven't dismantled their nuclear program, shit was going to happen. They have two choices. They could do it the nice way, or the other way is possible, but it's very bad, and it'll be very bad for them. They'll be hit like they've never been hit before and stuff. And then on the 61st day, our ally in the region hits them because we gave them permission, and you're like, this isn't our war. Fuck you. Stop running interference for Donald Trump.
We be there fighting it. Answer, no. Has Israel asked us to fight their war? Answer, no.
Because they don't need anything. They have the materials they need to do it. Here's the thing. If they need bunker busters, and the idea is that they need to get us to drop them, and we don't, we just go, no, we're not going to do that. But you can have some. Here's a few of them. And you can rent one of our planes, lend-lease. You can lend-lease one of our planes like we do with Ukraine. You can lend-lease the plane to do it for a week or 6 hours, however long the mission is. We'll fuel it up, get it there, fuel it up and get it back, and you just use it for the weekend like one of those net jets. Then is it, Glenn? Again, this is all about running interference for Trump as if he's not in control. Oh my God, the deep state around him is controlling him, and they're making this happen. The opposite seems to be true. It seems like the State Department and all these guys were trying to roll this stuff back and try to be at least semi-reasonable. You're having a big case of Tillerson in the White House right now, and Trump is just circumventing him on the top of Netanyahu. Wow, that'd be a big explosion. Do that.
Is this another Iraq, or is it something entirely different?
And now for something completely different. A man with a tape recorder up his nose.
Well, let me tell you what makes this moment unlike anything else we have faced before. First, this was not a call to war. This was not a land invasion. This is not a campaign to topple a regime and then sit around for 20 years trying to rebuild a culture that doesn't want what we have. Even though...
No, it's a campaign to topple a regime, period, and then fuck it. I think it seems to be, right? Like, if they knew where the Ayatollah was, he's hidden. If they knew where he was, he'd be dead right now. Like, why is killing the generals and the nuclear scientists somehow a reasonable target, which in the laws of war, they absolutely are. Anybody who develops weapon systems and fires them is a legit target. Why are they a legit target, but the dude telling them who to kill isn't? It's silly. That's why I think he's in hiding. He's probably in one of these nuclear facilities in a little, like, panic room.
And the Iranian people are good people. The Persians are great people, and they do...
Yes, and they have been colonized by Arabs that were not from the region. Doesn't that sound familiar? Like you give a shit.
Want a life like ours. But this was targeted. This was surgical. This was preemptive. Not against an idea, not against a guess, against the very real, very stated intentions of...
It sounds like he's selling this to everybody. Chat room, I gotta tell you, this started out like he was going, this is a bad idea. They shouldn't be doing this and stuff. What it sounds like he's saying is like, this is how you do it. Israel is doing this like, this is how it goes. A life like yours. No one wants a life like yours, Glenn. No, that is absolutely true. Women can't stand next to a window, though. Yeah. Well, I'm going to say he did get some marching orders. I agree. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I don't think Netanyahu needed marching orders. I think he's to some degree giving Trump marching orders because Trump is a weak follower. He's a clout chaser. He's a star fucker, and he knows he isn't one. He knows he's not a star. He knows he doesn't have clout. He knows the clout he has comes from the office of the presidency, not him as a person. But he thinks everybody else, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Bibi Netanyahu, Kim Jong-un, that their clout comes from who they were, and that's why they have that seat. That they're super powerful. They killed their way to the top, or they, outmaneuvered everybody. And so he wants to be in that club so fucking bad, and he's not. He's there by a serious fucked up twist of fate, not because he's masterful at anything, but because the media failed us, and to some degree Merrick Garland failed us, and the voters failed themselves.
Regime run by men who do not think like we think. Okay. They do not want what we want.
That sounds like you're saying the ideology that you're describing the ideology, the attack on an ideology. That's pretty much what we were saying about ISIS or the Taliban or Saddam Hussein, right? Watch this flip-flop.
We choose life. They literally choose death. That is...
Oh, dear.
As clear as it is. Do you choose life or do you choose death?
Let's see. Do I choose life or do I choose death? Well, I think technically speaking, you only have a choice of death or not. In death, like when and how. Like you could do yourself in or you could wait till it happens naturally or unnaturally. Right? So you don't have a choice about it. Like you didn't, well, I mean, it depends on your beliefs universally. You may have chosen your parents from heaven, but I think you only have a choice in death. That said, you guys don't give a shit about a 4-year-old girl with cancer being shipped off to a country that cannot treat her illness. Also, life isn't just the the opposite of the absence of breath.
It's a culture of death. So I want to start with the clerics of Iran, the ayatollahs, the supreme leader, the mullahs, the puppet.
He wrote this in a fit last night because he was so mad that nobody in the White House gave him a heads up.
Masters of the so-called Islamic Republic and their Sharia.
So-called.
I have said this for years and years and years. If you don't understand this, you don't understand Iran. These are 12ers. They are followers of a branch of Shiite Islam that believes not just in the return of the messianic figure called the Mahdi, but also that his return can and must be, in their words, hastened or accelerated. Mm-hmm. And the only way to do that is to, quote, using their words, wash the world in blood. Okay, I think I'm out at that. You know, that's my first stop on the train, and I'm like, I'm going to get off here, please. Let me say this again. The highest religious leader who actually is in charge of the entire country, the one who commands the...
Okay. Does anybody see what's happening here? So he decries the attack on Iraq and who was the enemy. We're fighting an ideology and people. Who were we even fighting in Iraq? Saddam Hussein, the Taliban, ISIS, and then he goes about pretending that they don't have leadership and exist as a structure. And then he goes about going, we're after an ideology. Now he's describing the ideology of the people that we have to topple specifically because of their ideology, because they're a death cult and they have access to what was the thing? They may very well have access to, what was it called? What was it called? Weapons of what? Weapons of mass what? Distraction?
Revolutionary Guard who fund the terror groups by Hezbollah and Hamas, the ones who train children to chant death to America in the street.
Look at fucking reading this prepared statement. Can you imagine waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, miffed, and this is what you write because you're pissed that someone in the White House didn't call you so you could have the breaking news in the morning and get inside information to help you with your ratings on the blase.
Believe the world must be engulfed in destruction and flames to usher in the end times. And they mean that the same way we mean that.
Yes, and he means Glenn and everybody at his little fucking prepper camp.
And that this is the regime trying to build a nuclear bomb. Now, I have a problem with this because I've been talking about this since 2000, maybe 2002. Oh, they're very close to a bomb. They're very close to a bomb. You know, I stopped listening to John Bolton a long time ago. It was a kind of cute little oldie thing that he'd bring up once in a while, but I don't know if they were close to the bomb. I don't know if anybody knows they were close to the bomb.
Yeah, they do. Yes, they do. That's why we had crafted a deal during the Obama administration and why it slowed that progress. And then the IAEA was able to inspect, and they know how much uranium they've been able to enrich to some degree. They know they haven't been able to test one of their intercontinental ballistic missiles with a triggering system, and you got to run those tests before you launch one. Nobody just Hail Marys a fucking nuke over to other countries because they tend to get pissed if it goes wrong and lands on their territory. Dumb.
Maybe. I will tell you what Benjamin Netanyahu told me in like 2010. I had a meeting.
This motherfucker.
And I'm like, are they close to a bomb? He said, I don't know. But when we believe that they are truly close to a bomb, it doesn't matter what the world will say. We will go in and do it ourselves if we have to. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Right, that's exactly what Trump said as well, and his 60 days ran out on Thursday when the attack happened. Moron.
Okay, so they want a nuclear bomb because they want to wash the world in blood. Now,
as opposed to the blood of the lamb?
Contrast that with the doctrine of mutually assured destruction that has kept peace between nuclear superpowers for over a half century.
By the way, so this is clear. You guys get where I'm going with this. He's not against this. He started off with this, like, I'm not a war guy. I don't want this kind of stuff to happen. I'm against this kind of stuff. I don't like John Bolton. But you can't let these guys have access to a nuclear weapon. So it was going to happen eventually. So I guess you got to have it. And so hang on tight. Now, I will show you a couple of things. One Let's see. Yeah, there's so many. Oh God. Yeah, video capture moment in Natanz. Yeah, here you go. I'll find this right here. This is Natanz, the nuclear facility. Boop, there it is. There you go. There's the big one. So that was a strafe. So they dropped multiple. I mean, that's a train. Boom, boom, boom. That's a nuclear enrichment facility. There's another one. So here comes the follow-up. And they're hitting very precise areas. Boink. There'll be another one probably right after that. Let's see. Yeah. Right there. You can tell that they're hitting very specific spaces in that. I can't tell if it's cars or jets going by. This is a guy driving by the place. This is where they've been hit. Black smoke. That's fuel burning. Yeah. So, yeah, hold on. Let me bring you guys in. Imagine people driving toward that. Yeah. Imagine if that's where you work. Because a lot of these facilities are under people's normal places of work. Like they put them in regular military bases, but they also put them under other, fuel facilities and stuff like that. Because human shields, that's what you put it under. The rest of the world, Israel, the United States are less likely to strike if you hide your military shit under where, civilian workers are all the time. And I got news for you. Israel, and the United States are relatively unique in not hitting those places in mass that actually give a shit. And you can just look at Russia and its striking of apartment buildings, not because there's a nuclear scientist on one of the floors, not because there's a general sleeping, in one of the apartments, not because that's where one of the drone operators lives, but just because it's a building in their sightline. That's why Russia is striking a lot of the buildings that it's hitting over and over again, so that it can, basically create a lower sightline for their artillery shells. Falling in a desert area probably will be kept mostly buried. Effective downwind hazard is not concerned. Yeah, I agree, Roy. Trump said he would stop all wars. Yeah, I think, well, that was one of the things. So, where is it? So Trump is catching shit from maggots. Let's see. Let's see if I can bring this up for you. Dink. Let's see. Trump threatens even more brutal strike on Iran as he pleads for a deal. Okay, this is he's going to celebrate temporary ruling on troop deployment. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of where he finds himself, and we would be wrong not to exploit it. Just saying. Hello. This is MAGA war on Trump over Israel's excellent Iran strike. President Trump is facing a MAGA firestorm over Israel's deadly strike against Iran, with some of his staunchest supporters warning that the U.S. involvement could split the base that got him elected. Don't threaten me with a good time. Look, this is simply the I told you so FAFO moment for all of these people. And I feel it is our moral responsibility to remind them that they are foeing right now. In a stunning operation, Israel launched what is described as a preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear program on Thursday, hitting Tehran's long-range missile facilities and aerial defenses and killing several military commanders. Now, also, this is the key part of it right here. The long-range missile facilities and the aerial defenses. Insofar as I've been able to find out, Iran's aerial defenses against more strikes is effectively decimated. Iran had hit it before, when they did the strike before the last strike. And Tehran can build that stuff back up, but it takes several months, and it hasn't been long enough for them to replace everything. Now, they probably had some replacement batteries so they could get some of the stuff quickly back in order. They had, 3 units in reserve for every 5 that were destroyed. So they've still got, 3 out there. But the next round get destroyed, and then you do that in another cycle. Eventually, they run out of the materials to actually make the defenses. This is what's happened in large part to Russia, which is why they keep using meat waves and why they don't own the skies. So while the U.S. says it was not involved in the attack, Trump on Friday said it reiterated his support for Israel and described the strikes as excellent. Excellent. What a dipshit. He also warned that there's a lot more to come. Thanks, dummy. Even if it is coming, and even if you're for it, shut the fuck up. I mean, what do you think you are? Like Pete Hegseth on a signal chat? But the escalation in the Middle East has ignited a war within MAGA ranks and put the president under growing pressure to keep America out of the conflict. As the prospect of an Israeli attack began to escalate on Thursday, MAGA Jack Posobiec took to social media to warn that a direct strike on Iran right now would disastrously split the Trump coalition. Hey, asshole, does the United States have to do the attack, or does he just have to give Israel the go-ahead? Huh? Trump smartly ran against starting new wars. He lied. He didn't smartly ran. He sold you what you wanted to hear, dumb fuck. This is what the swing states voted for. The midterms are not far, and Congress majority is already razor thin. I thought they had a mandate. Razor thin? So maybe take the BBB and shove it up your ass then? If you got a razor thin majority, how dare you try to pass any kind of a big bill, right? If you don't have a mandate, the fuck are you doing? Go earn a mandate, dummy. America first. Trump loyalist MTG said Americans don't want to bomb Iran because the secular government of Israel says that Iran is on the verge of developing a nuclear bomb any day now. Well, I don't think we're going to bomb Iran just because they say so. I mean, we would have intelligence. I think in many ways our intelligence is probably what they were relying on. I mean, the IAEA literally told the UN on yesterday, that they weren't complying anymore. And Iran said they're going to build another enrichment facility. 3 hours later, the bombs started. Like, we're not just taking somebody's word for it, stupid. And we're also not doing the bombing. It's like this whole thing. Like, why are we fighting Russia? This isn't our war in Ukraine. Like, motherfucker, we're not. We don't have soldiers on the ground. We're helping someone who was aggressively attacked. So stupid. All right. Anyways, and Charlie Kirk raised concern about the issue could cause a massive schism in MAGA and potentially disrupt our momentum and our insanely successful presidency. Well, you got your part right. Moments after the strike, Kirk went live on air to pose MAGA dilemma Trump now faces. How does the America First foreign policy doctrine and foreign policy agenda stay consistent with this right now? I don't know. We have to go. Maybe it never was. Maybe that's what's up. Asshole. Maybe it isn't an issue about whether you're going to have consistency, is that you never had consistency and you've been living a lie. Mark Levin, who's been pushing for the U.S. to abandon nuclear talks and give the green light to strike, took a different view. The Iranians, Mr. Producer, the Iranians are about to get their asses kicked. Oh, my God. And it's been coming since Jimmy Carter. Jesus Christ. You've been harboring this up. And it's so sad. Your moment comes and your voice sounds like a Fraggle. As tension between MAGA isolationists and war hawks escalated on Friday, Laura Loomer asked, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. How is it not America First to congratulate those who just made sure Islamists who chant death to America and who openly plotted to assassinate Trump never have an opportunity to have a nuke? So Loomer's on the side of letting it happen, and apparently she's the one filleting Trump, literally, not figuratively, so she probably has more say. Israel's strike was a humiliation for Trump, who spent weeks asking Netanyahu to hold off. On Thursday, hours before the attack took place, Trump even told reporters, I don't want them going in because it would blow it. I want to have an agreement with Iran. We're fairly close to an agreement. Whether or not we get there, I can't tell you, but it will happen soon. Whether or not we get there, I can't tell you, but it'll happen soon. Yeah, it happened that day, stupid. Not. Took a different tone. I gave Iran chance after chance to make a deal. He wrote on Truth Social. I told them in the strongest words to just do it, but no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. However, critics, Trump is scrambling to spin this, said Chris Murphy, which is true. Netanyahu isn't trying to help democracy. He was trying to destroy diplomacy. Diplomacy. How do we know they reportedly targeted and killed Iran's chief negotiator? Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, this, does anybody get from this that this asshole actually didn't know about it or wasn't okay with it happening? I gave Iran chance after chance to make a deal. I told them in the strongest words to just do it. It's in quotes because he doesn't want to violate Nike's trademark. But no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. I told them it would be much worse, to 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 be